trying to keep up with everything happening today, it just feels overwhelming sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like a constant flood of information.
So today, we're diving into something I think is really fascinating, AI agents.
Yeah.
And not just the chatbots.
Right. We're talking about systems that can actually do things. Autonomous systems tackling real tasks out in the world.
Yeah, and we're focusing specifically on one called DeepAgent from Abacus.AI.
And the claim here is pretty bold. They're suggesting it could fundamentally change how we get work done.
How so?
Well, think about AI that can build an app on its own, or write a complex report, or even automate entire workflows without constant hand-holding. That's the promise.
Okay, that does sound like a big shift. So how are we looking into this? What's our approach?
We've pulled together quite a bit. We've got info straight from Abacus.AI, obviously, but also some really interesting hands-on reviews from YouTube channels like AI and AutoGPT.
Good, so we can see it in action.
Exactly. Plus articles from Facebook, AI Studio, Julia Digital, Forbes, and Tito Video Test, which give more context on the whole AI agent landscape. So it makes sense.
Great. So the big question we're trying to answer for everyone listening is DeepAgent actually a significant step? Is this like a real move towards AI that operates truly on its own, especially in ways that affect our work?
That's the core question. So maybe let's start with the basics. What exactly is DeepAgent?
Okay, well, Abacus.AI calls it a God-tier general agent. That's quite a statement.
It is, isn't it? It sits within their Chat LLM Teams platform, but God tier implies something pretty powerful.
It suggests it goes way beyond your average AI assistant. The key seems to be its autonomy in handling complex jobs.
Right. It's not just responding, it's doing. Abacus points to things like building apps, creating reports and presentations.
And connecting to other systems to automate tasks, which sounds crucial for actual work.
Yeah, and the YouTube reviewers really picked up on this. AI called it the best AI agent they've seen.
Wow, high praise.
And World.AI used that same phrase, God-tier AI general agent that can literally do it. So there's definitely some excitement there.
Okay, interesting. What about getting access? Is it like super expensive research tech?
Actually, no, that's another interesting point. Several sources mention it's around $10 a month per user.
That's quite acceptable.
Yeah, and there seems to be some kind of free preview too. World.AI and another source, Shark Numbers, said 3 free tasks, but the official docs might say 2. Either way, you can try it out.
Okay, so affordable, accessible, getting rave reviews. Let's dig into how it's supposedly different from, say, chatbots we interact with daily.
Right, this is where it gets really interesting. That Forbes article we looked at made a really good point. It says agents, true agents, can reason, plan, and execute in real time.
Reason, plan, execute.
Okay, and they adapt. They're not just following a script or pulling from canned responses like, older chatbots often do.
So less like following a flowchart, more like
Yes.
figuring things out as it goes.
Exactly. You look at a goal, break it down into steps that's the planning, carry them out execution, and adjust if things change. That's the reasoning part.
And DeepAgent supposedly takes this pretty far, like handling workflows with lots of steps.
That's what World.AI and Shark Numbers highlighted. Minimal user oversight needed for quite complex sequences.
Got it. And the YouTube examples really bring this to life.
Oh, definitely. AI's test of building a website about large language models was pretty impressive. Well, from just a basic prompt, the agent apparently did the research, planned the site structure, actually built it, handled errors.
It troubleshooted its own work.
Seemed like it, yeah. And then it even deployed it and provided the downloadable files all correctly structured. And importantly, it wasn't just lorem ipsum text. It generated actual relevant content.
Okay, that's a step up. It's not just code, it's the whole process, including the content generation and problem solving.
Right, and it made decisions about content construction. Any AI also showed it creating a super detailed volley travel attack.
Specific.
Yeah, multi-day, specific places, recommendations. And then, completely differently, it built a functional Sudoku game to play in a web browser. All from simple prompts.
So, first tasks, complex outputs, minimal input.
Pretty much. And World.AI showed something similar with a volley itinerary dashboard, again with download.
Shark Numbers.
Yeah. Building a news aggregator site from one big prompt, it shows how DeepAgent can supposedly juggle multiple subtasks. Research, design, coding, deployment. It breaks down the big goals.
Okay, so it's really about task ownership, not just task execution. It figures out the how.
That seems to be the core difference. It's a move towards greater autonomy.
And you mentioned integrations earlier. That sounds key for making this actually useful in a work context.
Absolutely. This is where it potentially gets really practical. Abacus, AI, Shark Numbers, they all mention integrations with tools lots of us use every day.
Like,
Slack, Gmail, Jira, those are the big ones.
okay, so connecting to communication and project management.
Precisely. This allows for real workflow automation. It's not just generating something in isolation. It's plugging that intelligence directly into your existing workflows. World of AI showed it pulling data from Jira tickets, like actual project tasks, and then creating insights on a dashboard.
Ah, so it's interacting with live data from another system.
Yeah. And connecting to Gmail means it could potentially automate email actions, manage communications, things like that.
Right, you can imagine telling it, draft a summary of the Q3 report, email it to the marketing team, and schedule a follow-up.
Exactly. That kind of multi-step cross-platform task automation feels like the goal, that interconnectedness.
So how does DeepAgent stack up against other AI agents out there? The Forbes and TOPBS articles probably give some context.
Good deal. TOPBS mentioned a few others, like OpenAI's research agent, they call it operator engine, and Google has something called Space. Microsoft has Copilot agents too, like researcher and analyst.
Okay, so there are others with similar ideas. How is DeepAgent different?
Well, based on the reviews and descriptions, many of those other agents seem maybe a bit more specialized, like focused purely on research or specific enterprise tasks. DeepAgent seems positioned, or at least perceived by reviewers, as more of a general autonomous agent.
Gaming for a broader range of tasks.
That's the impression, building websites, planning trips, managing Jira tickets. It seems quite versatile, though that operator agent from OpenAI, interacting with live websites, filling forms, making purchases, that's definitely also pushing towards autonomous action.
Interesting. What about open source stuff, like AutoGPT?
Yeah, TOPBOTS mentioned AutoGPT and SuperAGI. They're really important foundational frameworks, kind of showing the potential for language models to operate more autonomously, break down tasks, use tools.
But maybe not as user-friendly out of the box.
That could be the difference, yeah. DeepAgent, based on those YouTube reviews, seems designed to be more of a ready-to-use product, maybe bridging that gap between the cutting-edge research and something you can actually deploy in your workflow relatively easily.
Gotcha. Any other players?
TopEBSets also mentioned a startup called Manus, also aiming for full task autonomy, although they noted the results were a bit mixed sometimes. But again, it shows this is a really active area of development. Everyone's pushing towards more capable autonomous AI.
Which brings us right back to our main question. All this evidence, the reviews, the capabilities, does DeepAgent feel like a real significant step towards truly self-operating AI?
When you look at what it's reportedly doing, the research, the planning, building entire applications, integrating with Slack and Jira, it's difficult not to see it as a pretty big jump from your standard AI assistant.
It feels qualitatively different.
It does. It's showing a level of independence and task complexity that hasn't really been mainstream before.
But we should probably keep the caveats in mind too, right?
Definitely. Abacus themselves call it a limited preview. There are task limits. It suggests it's still evolving.
And you mentioned compute points.
Right. The documentation mentions that complex tasks use up compute resources, which implies there are still underlying constraints. Getting to fully self-operating, whatever that means, probably involves overcoming those resource hurdles, too.
That makes sense. Still, those God-tier descriptions from users that suggest people feel like they're interacting with something fundamentally more capable.
Absolutely. And thinking about our listeners, people interested in efficiency and the future of work, the potential impact is huge. Imagine offloading complex, multi-step tasks entirely to an AI agent. That could seriously change productivity.
Yeah, it really could. So wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway from our deep dive?
I think the key point is that DeepAgent appears to be a genuinely powerful tool. It demonstrates significant autonomous capabilities across different kinds of tasks, and its integrations make it potentially very practical. It definitely marks a notable progression.
A clear step forward in AI capabilities.
Yes. Now, whether it's the definitive first step towards fully self-operating AI, that's maybe still open for debate as things develop, but it's a strong contender and certainly feels like a significant move in that direction.
It definitely gives us a lot to think about regarding how technology might reshape our work. How could agents like this change your specific workflow? That's a question worth pondering.
For sure. And if people are curious to try it themselves, checking out Abacus.AI and their chat LLM platform seems like the next step, remembering that $10 a month price point and the potential free trial.
Right. It makes it accessible for people to actually experiment.
Exactly. And it just underscores how fast this field is moving. AI agents are evolving rapidly, and their potential to change how we interact with technology is, well, it's becoming clear all the time. Really fascinating stuff to watch.